Welcome to the Ride This Out podcast, where we talk about how to improve your mental health and strengthen your connection to nature and your community, all through one simple solution: the bicycle. My name is Zach Golding, and I'm a licensed clinical social worker and mental health therapist. I'll be your host as we discuss the power of pedaling. All right, in this session, it's another Tune-Up Tuesday session. We're going to go over some quick tips and tools, some questions, some reflections. I'm going to share some stories, some different things for us to kind of ponder and improve our mental health, overall well-being. This is not meant to take the place of your own traditional individual therapy. This is meant to encourage and promote your own mental health, mental wellness, and if that means going to a therapist, by all means, do so. And for best results, ride your bike to the appointment. But on that note, if you live in Utah, I am still accepting new clients at my private practice. It's up and rolling. Been going for the last few weeks, and it's been going great. Right off the Murdoch Canal Trail, I do use a lot of different kind of nature experiential work as well as in-office work, but just a chance to kind of get out and reflect on some things and talk and get those new pathways going as far as in our minds and discussing some things. So it's been super great. Anyways, the story that I'd like to share. So in episode 11 of this podcast, I talked with Dr. Joe Jensen. He's been in education for 29 years. He's worked as a principal for a number of those years. And that's how I came in contact with him. My mother-in-law is a high school teacher at one of the schools where Joe was the principal. He's not the principal there anymore, but he was there. And my mother-in-law had told me about him and said, "Zach, you should really talk to my principal. He bikes all the time." And I thought, okay, yeah, that's cool. Like, she's like, no, for real. And so then, I just had this feeling of it'd be cool to reach out to him. So I did. This is, back in August. So, quite a few months ago. And, he was super kind and he said he'd be honored to be on the podcast. It was a great episode. It was a great session. I felt so bad because there was some technological glitches, but still such great content that he shared. So if you haven't listened to that episode, that session number 11, I would encourage you to go back and listen to that. But as after I interviewed him and dropped that episode, about a month and a half later, we were doing some advocacy rides, some different things here with Bike Orem that we're a part of. And we were doing some Taco Tuesday rides. And so we showed up to this taco spot and we're eating. And this new guy showed up and I'm introducing myself. And I introduced myself as Zach. And he looks at me and he says, like, "Zach from the podcast?" I start laughing, because it's not like I'm podcast famous or anything. And I'm like, "Oh, how did you know about the podcast?" And he said, "You interviewed my dad on the podcast." And I was like, "Who's your dad?" And he said, "Joe Jensen." Like, oh, no way. So it was cool to meet him. His name's Ashton. Ashton is the oldest child of Joe. Joe has 6 kids. And so I've gotten to know Ashton over the last few months, again, by doing different rides and different meetings and everything. Just a really great, smart guy, all about bicycle advocacy work. And me and him have actually done some mountain biking as well together. He's a strong rider too, just super fast. Anyways, so, just getting to know him. And on one of our rides, one of our discussions, he, had mentioned how his family does the White Rim Road down in Canyonlands National Park down by Moab in Utah. And I was like, man, that's such a cool trail. I've never done that road, like that trail. It sounds awesome. It'd be really cool to do that. And then he just kind of threw it out there like, well, if we ever went, would you would you want to go with us? Kind of like if we had an open spot. And I thought he was just, again, being nice, just a polite thing to say. I said, yeah, that'd be way cool. Well, anyways, fast forward a few months, and just a few weeks ago, Ashton had called me and left me a message, and he had said, hey, our family's going down. We have one more spot open on our permit. Would you like to come with us? And I was like, oh, heck yeah, that would be great. But then I started thinking, I was like, oh man, I don't want to crash their family party, just being another extra person along the trip. And in my mind, I'm thinking of other excuses, of reasons not to go, right? Like, oh no, I got to build up my practice. I got some clients I got to see. And then talking to my wife about it, I was just kind of saying like, I don't know. And shout out to my wife. She's like so supportive of everything. And she just said, why not? Like, just, you can rearrange your schedule and go. Like, this is chance of a lifetime to do this trip. And I was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. So, luckily I was able to rearrange my schedule. My clients were super understanding about it. Got it all rearranged to be able to open up the days, to be able to go. And, so I went, and that was just this last weekend. And, what was super fun about the trip is there was 15 people that went. So there was Dr. Jensen, Joe, with 5 of his 6 kids went. His other son that wasn't on the trip, he's serving a mission for his church, and so he wasn't there with us on this trip. But he had 5 of his kids, and then he had a brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law had his kids. So there was, the cousin aspect of it, and then one of Joe's kids. She brought her roommates and friends that she knew from college. A member of their community that's the local high school mountain bike coach, he came. So it was just a really cool mix of a lot of different people, a lot of different ages. Joe's brother came on the trip as well. And, we had ages all the way from 12 up to, I didn't ask how old the oldest person was there. I didn't think that would be appropriate, but, there was a wide range of age groups and skill levels on this trip as well. So we all show up to Canyonlands National Park, and we get it all situated. 15 of us, right? And, oh yeah, and Ashton's girlfriend was on the trip. Super cool. If you're listening, Ashton and your girlfriend, I hope it works out. Anyways, so we all show up, we all, carpool down there, we all get everything rearranged, and we ride into Canyonlands, and you got to go down to the White Rim Road. You go down this major hill, into down by the river, and it just, every turn you're making, it's just beautiful scenery after beautiful scenery. Like, I just wanted to stop every, mile and just take pictures. It was just incredible. The red rock, the overlooks, the big blue skies. It was just amazing, just breathtaking. And so we're riding along. We get to our camp, and as you do this trail, as you do this road, we had 2 support vehicles following us because we had so many riders. And Joe's been doing this trail for 20 plus years, so he's got it dialed in. And man, talk about great service. Like, he had all these meals planned out. And the fun thing about this whole trip is it wasn't like, again, we were like not hardcore riders or anything. It was a mix of different skill levels of riding. And so we were taking it, at our own nice leisurely pace and just enjoying the whole ride and the camping. And that's what everyone kind of said too, is like, we're not necessarily here for the riding. We're just here for the company. And, man, I really appreciated that, because the only person that I knew going into this trip was Ashton. And, I've only known him for a few months, but, as I got to know all the different members, of this party, it was really cool to connect with so many of them. And as they all kind of found out I was a therapist, it was fun for them to kind of ask me different questions and different ideas and different theories and different experiences. So that's one thing that I've found as being a therapist as a profession, that a lot of people have a lot of questions for you, which at first when I was doing therapy, I didn't really like to talk about it that much because I was kind of afraid what people would want to know or say. But, over 10 years now, I've learned to embrace it, and it's actually really fun. And I can give some different tips and advice. And that's hence this podcast has really helped me with that as well, to kind of just be open about it and discuss some of those things. So anyways, that night we're sitting around the campfire and just having a great time. And the wonderful thing about this trip is that you're so deep into this canyon and in the middle of nowhere that there is no cell service, like none at all. You can't access the internet. You can't call anybody. You're just there with the people that you're with. So what a great opportunity for us to just be mindful, be present, be in the moment. That was super cool. So that night, after, just talking around the campfire most of the evening, it was cold. It got really cold, and we were out there camping, and it rained hard. We're out in the middle of the desert, and you wouldn't think that it would get that much rain, and it dumped. It came down super hard. So hard to the fact that the next morning we wake up and, Joe's kind of talking to us all, and he's thinking, with this group of riders that we have, where we're kind of going at our own leisurely pace and not really sure how the roads will be looking as we do this next stretch. He was a little bit worried about getting to our next campsite in time, because this whole road is about 100 miles. This is a 100-mile road that you ride. And, we had planned on splitting it up in 3 days, and that second day was going to be the biggest leg of it. But I admire Joe and trust his expertise, because he's been doing this so much, and he just kind of said, I think it'd be best for us to actually turn around and go out the way we came in. That was about 20 miles, and then go along the paved road, not that far back into the other section, and drop into our campsite from there. That way we can dodge some of the major climbs and the potential muddy roads, and we're not worried about getting to camp super late. So that was a lesson right there. And, being able to adjust and being okay with it, and being able to roll with it. Deep down, I did want to ride the whole loop. I thought that would have been really cool, but, that'll just have to wait till next time. I just had to trust and again, know that Joe knew what he was doing, and I'm not going to question that. So totally fine. So we bike out, but we had to bike back up that major road that we had come down, and the elevation gain on that was steep, really steep. But as I was biking up it, I was biking up with, again, members of the family there. And it was just made it so much easier just by talking with somebody as we were going, kind of distracting our mind, right? Because it was churning and burning, just huffing and puffing up this trail. But we made it. And one of the sisters had just said, this is one of the coolest feelings, is being able to bike up and out of this. She had done it multiple times, and she was right. When you get to the top of that thing, you look down on that road and you thought, holy smokes, I just biked up this thing. What a cool sense of accomplishment. And you're kind of feeling that biker's high, that runner's high, just I accomplished this. I feel great. Let's keep going. So anyways, we bike back out. We go to our other campsite and again, dip down into the river bottom and make it to our campsite. And this just kind of showed the kind of guy that Joe was, or is. He, at this trip, he knew that there was this hike that was just a few miles down the road from our campsite, and it was cold. It was pretty cold. And he said, how about, instead of you guys just sitting around camp, standing around, just being cold, you all go and do this hike. And, he stayed back with one of his daughters and the mountain bike coach, and they just said, we'll get the food all set up. We'll get the camp set up. You guys go hike. You kind of distract yourself so you're not freezing out. So yeah, we went and did this hike, and it was amazing. Again, just we hiked to this major lookout spot, this butte, and just the red rocks just standing out there in the middle of nowhere. Just incredible, just awe-inspiring. You just stand there and you again, your breath is just taken away of the natural beauty that's out there. And beautiful hike. We come back in, and luckily the wind had died down, and the stars out there were just amazing. Like just the brightest stars you can ever see. There's no light pollution out there. There's no screens, no city lights or anything for miles and miles, and so you can just see everything. And it's, if you haven't experienced stars like that, man, go out middle of nowhere somewhere. You don't have to go to Moab specifically, but go someplace and it just kind of really puts you in your place in the universe, and you just kind of get this sense of how big really thing is. It's amazing. It's a humbling experience. So that night, and then that next morning, we wake up, and one of the best parts of the trip, honestly, I love biking, I love all those things, but one of the best parts of this trip for me, besides the great company that I was with, is, I woke up both mornings pretty early. I'm an early riser, and just watching the sunrise out in the middle of the desert, hit that red rock. It's so peaceful, so amazing. And just being able to see the water, or the light bounce off of the water. We were right next to the river with the red rock. So beautiful. And so anyways, that next morning, the last morning that we're there was another hike that Joe was like, if you're down here, you got to go do this hike. And again, it speaks to the kind of guy that he is. He's just like, you go do that hike. You've never seen it before. He was telling me and, Ashton and Ashton's girlfriend, go do this hike. You've never done that before. You got to go check it out. So Ashton led us out there with his sister, showed us where it was. It was, again, super cool. There were some Native American ruins out there that you can kind of see, a little like kiva that they had built up with some rocks. Amazing that it's still there, and just the amount of work and effort that was put into it. It was just great. It was amazing. And then you see all these canyons, the viewpoints. It was just such a cool experience. So anyways, we hike back, get back to our camp, get it all loaded up, and then the majority of the riders had already left. Actually, all the riders had left, and then the cars were getting ready to pull out the 2 trucks. And then that last section there, we had about 4 or 5 miles to go, and that was for me, that was another highlight of the trip for sure. I got to ride just right next to Dr. Jensen. Me and Joe rode for that good 5 miles, and that dude is in shape. Again, I don't know how old he was. I'm not asking him, but he's up there in his age. And but we're riding, and he's riding pretty hard, and we're having this conversation. He's talking just fine. I'm huffing and puffing a little bit, trying to keep up with him as we're having a conversation. But one thing I just said, it's like, Joe, you got amazing kids, man. And because again, 5 of his kids were with us on the trip, and he was just so humble about it. Just said, oh no, yeah, we're very blessed. We're very lucky to have the kids that we do. And I just kind of said, well, for sure, yeah, you are, but that took some work. That took some intentionality on your part to be able to do that. And this trip is a major part of that. Talking to him about how he would bring down his kids to this trip about once a year, starting at the age of 6, 7, 8 years old. And it was really cool during that trip to hear a lot of their memories, kind of talking about how they rode, their bikes for different sections, and then they would ride in the truck, and then just the camping, the whole aspect of it, how much of an impact that these experiences had on these kids, as they're into their adulthood, and taught them so many wonderful life lessons. And how cool it was that the bicycle is a major part of that. Them all riding together and having these wonderful experiences out in nature together. And Joe, all about biking. Again, talking to him in that podcast episode, how much he commutes to work and how much he rides, and how much it means to him and what it's done for him and his physical and mental health. So how he's passing that down to the next generation, and riding with Ashton, seeing his love for biking, and also his daughters and everything too. And one of the coolest parts as well of this trip, well, again, as I was riding with Joe, and we were talking about family stuff and different books that have been influential on us, and sharing different ideas of working with youth, and working with people around us, and trying to just improve our own lives and professionally and family and everything. That was a really cool experience. Awesome. And Joe reminds me a lot of my father as well. So it was a really cool experience to have that connection. So we get to the bottom, and one last big climb to climb out of this river bottom up the canyon road here. And I'm thinking, all right, let's do this. It's been a few days of riding, but I can do this. And I just rode it, by myself at this point. We had all kind of gone at different times and kind of split up. And I just thought I just want to do this by myself. So, it took me a good 25, 30 minutes just straight pedaling up this thing. And it was intense, but also once I got into the right rhythm of my mindset, honestly, I was kind of surprised that I was able to do the whole thing. And but what was really cool is as I got to the very top, Joe's youngest son, his name was Grant. He'd already made it to the top, and he was sitting at the very top. And he saw me coming up, and he's like, "Yeah, Zach," kind of like a long race, and someone's there at the very end. But it was just him, his 12-year-old, cheering me on, and that was cool. That was a cool moment. I was, it meant quite a bit to me, honestly, because I was like, man, I just did this. Grant sees me, man. I appreciate that. So that was a cool moment. Anyway, so we all packed up our bikes, ate our final lunch, and took off. But luckily on our whole trip, we didn't have any major car problems or bike problems or anything like that. But as we were pulling out of Canyonlands, Joe's brother, Dave is his name, his car tire went flat. And so we pulled over the road and helped him get it switched out, and he was able to get to the next town to get it fixed. But I thought that was kind of funny. Again, with trips like that, you kind of expect things to go wrong, and that way, when they do, you're not surprised about it. You just kind of knew it was coming all along, and you can kind of, again, adapt or adjust and prepare for that. But Dave was a really cool guy to talk to and meet as well, because he was telling me, he's like, I haven't been on a bike in 5 years. The last time I was on a bike was actually down here. And I was like, man, that's pretty wild. You back down here again. But he was telling me that a year ago he had a heart issue, and he had a heart surgery where he had a valve replaced. And I was like, and you're out here biking this a year later? But he's just saying how great he felt, and how great it felt to be back on the bike, and to be out in nature and in this special place. Because again, Joe's taken down so many people to this place, different family members and stuff. So I was honored that I got to be a part of that and witness that a little bit on this trip. So shout out to the Jensen family. Thank you for inviting me, for having me a part of it. And I thought it was so cool, just the different connections that we were able to meet. The mountain bike coach, Aaron Tetro, man, that dude's awesome. Such a selfless guy, being willing to, share his resources and, his guiding expertise to take us down there. That was really fun to talk to him and connect with him on so many different levels, and also seeing everyone else kind of connect with each other was a really fun group. We were there for, just over 48 hours. But it was a really cool experience for all of us. And I'm reminded, there's, people will talk about, different things that change you, whether it's, the people that you meet, the books that you read, the places that you go. And those are all connections that they stick with you, and they they do have an impact on your life. And being able to kind of see that, again, kind of re-cemented in my mind, the things that I want to do with my family as well, with my kids, and being able to create some of those experiences. They're not going to be exactly like the Jensen family, but you can kind of see how it's done, see how it's modeled, and do your own kind of spin or take on it. You have your own style to it. But when you see other people do it, it opens up your mind to some of those possibilities. And it was just so cool to see, the inspiring nature of these other men that were a part of our group. Joe and his brother, and the mountain bike coach, and Joe's brother-in-law, and just everyone that was there, how they were like so welcoming and motivating to everybody. So it was awesome times all around. I greatly appreciate being able to go out there and experience that. And even though I didn't do the whole loop, a lot of them kept saying too, well, this just gives us another reason to come back down here. And I'm not going to invite myself, but I was like, yo, if you need another person to fill that spot, you got my number. I'd be happy to do that. So it was a great trip. Anyways, those are just some of my thoughts about the fun trip that we did. If you guys are thinking about either doing that trip, what I learned about it is that you gotta scout it out pretty well in advance. You got to get permits, and it's a pretty popular trail. But the nice thing is since you do have to have a permit, there's not a lot of people down there, so it's spaced out pretty good. So whether it's that trail or another trail, something that you're kind of thinking about, set plans, do it. Make an itinerary, make a plan to figure out how you can do it, and you won't regret it. Those experiences, those memories, they last a lifetime, right? We can always get caught up in our day-to-day things, but when we take time away from that day-to-day, again, we really appreciate those moments and those memories that we can make. So hopefully, hearing some of these stories, and you can kind of motivate yourself to do those things, to a little bit out of the ordinary, to kind of help with your own physical, mental health, whatever it is, and it kind of breaks up, again, the day-to-day things, and really helps you get through those trying times. So again, if you're ever struggling with anything, or if there's ever a moment where you got to make a big decision or anything coming up, jump on that bike and tell yourself, I can ride this out.